Well, thanks for stopping by the 33 Kings studio to hang with your old buddy, Uncle Jay. Now, if this is your first time visiting the channel, well, go back and check out some of the other videos that we got because this is episode 3 of the Clay County War, one of the bloodiest family feuds in all of U.S. history. However, did not gain the recognition as a Hatfields and McCoy's feud because, well, this one just didn't go to the Supreme Court. But the end result of this one did end up with the assassination of a Kentucky governor. Let's take a look at the last episode of the Clay County War. Well, back in the 1800s in Appalachia, well, time was tough. And you had to be tough to survive it. I mean, tough as nails. Those folks back then, they didn't carry a gun to shoot wild game. No, they carried a gun based on their survival. Their very lives depended on it. Now, you can consider all those folks back then, well, they's a little clannish. And that's true, and that's still true in these hills today. And not only that, those folks, if you made one family member mad, well, you made them all mad. And if they had a chance, well, there's a good possibility they'd probably kill you. Now, there's a lot of people that was killed in these feuds that, well, the records, well, they never found anybody who was responsible for the killing. And I mean, these folks would go out to get a pail of water from the well and just, well, all of a sudden their throat's cut or they've been shot. Same thing goes with working in the garden or going hunting. And folks would have to go look for them and they were just dead. Back then there were no detectives. The law was very scarce. And, well, folks back then didn't even have no idea what DNA was or doing detective work trying to figure out who killed who or who done what. Now, this story takes place 50 years after Dr. Abner Baker shot Daniel Bates. Now, the first killing in the late years was on June 6th, 1898, when Wilson Howard and Bert Storrs was killed. And A.B. Howard, the father of Wilson Howard, was also shot and wounded. Now, this, as it's thought, was done by Tom Baker, and there had been a dispute between them regarding a $40 note. Now, the next day, James Howard met George Baker, father of Tom, and he shot him. Shortly after this, Charles Wooten, son-in-law of A.B. Howard, was shot by Sid Baker. Now, in August, Tom Baker met and killed Will White and Sheriff Deputy Beverly White, Jr. Later in the same month, John Baker was shot by two men from behind two trees on Goose Creek. His slave, who was with him, was likewise killed. July 10th of the same year, Tom Baker, who was to be tried in Manchester for the murder of Will White, was taken to the courthouse under the protection of 100 state troopers with a Gatling gun. While standing by a tent in the courthouse yard, a shot rang out from Sheriff White's house. And the Tom Baker that everyone always knew as Bad Tom, cousin of Captain Bill Strong of Breathitt County, fell dead in the courthouse yard. Well, court was adjourned, and pretty soon everyone that could and was able to left Clay County. Now, one really has to ask oneself, what led up to the animosity between all these families over all these years? And why did the feuding keep happening and, well, really didn't stop until the 1940s? Well, it was just strange mishaps. in a lot of cases. Now, we know Dr. Abner Baker, well, he was pretty much insane. And a lot of the other families, they confirmed that he was not playing with a full deck. But now in the fall of 1849, another Baker was accused of murder. William Baker, the son of Sarah and Boston Bob. Now, apparently, a gentleman by the name of Frank Pruitt, which was a shoemaker in Manchester, had made some advances against William's wife, Matilda. Well, anyway, he was killed and was found out behind the house after some dogs and coyotes had dug his bones up in the backyard. Well, but despite the Garrett's hire the best defense in the world for him, well, he was led to the gallows on January 15th, 1850. Now, it was rather serene of what William actually said, and it was, "Do not forget Job Allen, Adorium Baker, and Robert Hayes for falsely testifying against me." And then he was hung. And 5 years later, on her deathbed, Matilda confessed that she was the one that actually killed Frank Pruitt. Well, let's go deeper into this story because, well, it does get deeper before we get to talking about Jim Howard being convicted of killing Kentucky governor. William E. Goebel was a candidate of the Democratic Party for Kentucky for governor in the election of 1899, and his principal opponent was W.S. Taylor, the Republican nominee. The State Board of Election Commissioners had canvassed the returns and issued a certificate of election to Taylor, who was duly inaugurated and took possession of the archives and records pertaining to the office. Shortly afterward, a contest was instituted by Goebel before the legislature at Frankfort, and it was pending on January 30th, 1900. At 11 a.m. on this date, Goebel left his hotel in Frankfort in company with Colonel Jack Chin and Captain E. Lillard, warden of the penitentiary. When they reached the State House gate, a shot was fired from the direction of a three-story building in which a number of state officials, including Governor Taylor and Secretary of State Caleb Powers, had offices. Simultaneously with the first shot, Goebel uttered an involuntary exclamation of pain, and looking in the direction of the building, he attempted to draw his revolver, but his strength failed him, and he sank to the sidewalk, mortally wounded. Now, several other shots were fired from the same direction with great rapidity, but no other wounds were inflicted. When informed of the cowardly assault, Taylor appeared to be horror-stricken and bitterly denounced the act. He at once ordered out the militia for purpose of preserving order, but with the rapidity gave some to suspect that the soldiers had been waiting prior to the assassination attempt. Now, despite the opposition from the Republican Party, the meeting was held on January 31st, and William Goebel was declared Kentucky governor, and John C. Beckham was declared lieutenant governor. Now, despite advice from his physicians, Goebel, by a superhuman effort, sat up in bed and took the oath of office administered by Chief Justice Hazelrig. But on February 3rd, 1900, Goebel died, and almost immediately afterward, John C. Beckham was sworn in as governor of Kentucky. Now, on March 27th, Henry E. Yahtzee, the clerk in the state auditor's office, was arrested and charged with being one of the conspirators. Now, about this time, Yahtzee made a confession in which he charged Governor Taylor and Caleb Powers with hatching the plot. And he also implicated ex-Secretary of State Charles Finley. Yahtzee declared that a gunfighter by the name of Jim Howard fired the fatal shot from the .38 caliber rifle, which he, Yahtzee, had delivered to him with a box of cartridges for the very purpose. And he stated that Howard received $1,600 for the job. And with good old Uncle Jay for this final episode of the Clay County War. Now, there were 16 people that actually ended up convicted for the murder of Governor Goebel. But now Big Jim Howard, well, he was pardoned in 1908. Now, if you enjoy things like this, well, hit that like and that subscribe button. And plus, Uncle Jay's going to try to get down there and do some digging because I'd really like to find out where my great-great-grandfather is actually buried. And so make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. That way you don't miss the episode when we go down there and we actually take a look at where some of this history actually happened. Thanks for hanging with Uncle Jay, and we'll see you.